Today we'll take a look at a new option in the Alpha Anywhere PhoneGap app builder that allows the developer to easily build both Android and iOS apps using the native Cordova command line interface, or CLI, instead of using the PhoneGap build service to build a native PhoneGap app. Using the CLI gives you more options for working with plugins that require the use of hooks, which are not supported by PhoneGap Build. Hooks are typically used by plugins to atomically control the installation of supporting native code, libraries, or frameworks. An example of a plugin that requires the use of hooks is the Hot Code Push plugin. You cannot use this plugin with PhoneGap Build. Using the CLI requires the installation of the target platform native development tools. You can build CLI Android apps on a Windows-based PC. You need to install the Java SE Development Kit and Android Studio. For an iOS app, you'll need a Mac and Xcode installed. On either platform, you'll also need to install Node.js, a Git client, and Cordova. We'll take a look at the installation of these tools for Android development on a Windows 10 machine. Step 1 is to install Node.js, if it hasn't already been installed. You can check by opening a command window and entering node --version. The version should display. To install Node, download the installer from nodejs.org and run the installer. npm, the Node package manager, will also be installed. Node needs to be added to the path environment variable, which is done by default. Next, install a local Git client. You'll need this in case any of the plugins you want to use are pulled from a Git repo. Go to git-scm/downloads. The default settings are fine. Step 3 is to install Cordova. From a command window, enter npm install-g Cordova. To verify the installation, enter Cordova-v. The installed version number will be displayed. Next, you need to install the Java Development Kit. This is at oracle/technetwork/java/java.se/downloads. Finally, install Android Studio. This is available at https://developer.android.com/studio/install. You'll need to install the packages for whatever API level you wish to target. You should install the highest level that Cordova Android supports, which is currently API level 25, or NuGet. Fire up Android Studio, then click the Configure icon. Click the setting and select the Android SDK. You can select multiple targets from the SDK Platforms tag, but you don't want to go any lower than API level 14. Or Ice Cream Sandwich, because it will not be supported by the current version of Cordova. Next, from the SDK Tools tab, make sure to install the Android SDK Platform Tools and the Android SDK Tools if they have not been automatically installed. Now you need to set the environment variables. These are the system environment variables. From the Start menu, search for Environment and select Edit the System Variables. These can also be accessed from the Control panel. Once the System Properties dialog is displayed, click the Environment Variables button. You'll need to add two system environment variables, one for Android_Home and one for Java_Home. These point to the installed locations of the Android SDK and the Java Development Kit. Next, you'll need to edit the path variable. Select Path and click the Edit button. You'll need to add 3 entries, one for Java_Home/bin, one for Android_Home/platform-tools, and finally one more for Android_Home/tools. Keep in mind that this installation process is documented in the Alpha Anywhere help. From the help window, search for the PhoneGap CLI to access this document. You should now be all set to build a Cordova project. From within Alpha Anywhere, open the PhoneGap Builder and start a new project. This is a good idea because this ensures that you'll get the latest template that includes recent modifications for Android API level 24 and greater. You'll notice a new property within the builder labeled App Build Target. You can now select PhoneGap Build or CLI. Select CLI and make sure to select Android for the build platform. Make sure to enter the application ID properly. The application ID uses the reverse domain naming convention, and the CLI app folder that will be created is the last part of this string, which should be the app name. Don't use caps or spaces here. All of the other options can be set as they would normally for PhoneGap Build. If your app is doing any AJAX callbacks, make sure to set the AJAX URL properly. The Cordova version that is specified here will be ignored by the CLI builder because the version that will be used to build the app is the version of Cordova that is currently installed on your development machine. If at any time you want to upgrade the Cordova version, just open a command window and enter npm install-g Cordova. You can set a custom icon or splash screen, otherwise known as a launch image, if you've created one. If not, the default alpha icon and Cordova splash screens will be used. Next, select all the plugins that you need to install and click the Save and Launch PhoneGap CLI Builder button. The Cordova CLI Builder dialog will appear. You'll need to specify an existing folder for the generated files. In this case, I've created a folder on my C drive called CLI_test. The builder will add a subfolder named with the app name. If you're doing an iOS build as well, a folder called appname_iOS_files will also be created. Check the option to generate an Android build. If you want to generate a build script for iOS, check the option to generate an iOS build script. For iOS, all the app files will be packaged up into a zip file, and a bash script called build.sh will be generated in the appname_iOS_files folder. Upon completion, the contents of this folder are copied to a Mac and the bash script is run. See the alpha help on this Cordova CLI Builder for further details. Under the Android Build Options category, you'll see the option to update an existing app. When this option is enabled, if you have previously built an Android app with the CLI Builder, only the app www folder and its contents are updated. This allows you to quickly update an existing app without having to go through the full process of building a new app. It's simply faster. If this is unchecked and an existing app folder exists, then all the existing app files are deleted and the complete project will be rebuilt. The Update All Plugins option will force an update of all the plugins. You will most likely only use this if you have added a plugin to an existing project. If you have included a custom icon or a launch image, check the Include Update Custom App Icon or Launch Image option. This will copy the files into the proper Android folders. You only need to enable this option once, so to save time with any updates, uncheck this option. Android build type can be a debug build or a production build. For test purposes, use the debug build. If you're ready to publish the app to Google Play, select the production build. If you're doing a production build, then the Android App Credentials category will be displayed. This is where you'll enter all the credentials required for a production build. I'll select a debug build. The post-APK build behavior category determines what happens after the APK file is generated. If you'd like to generate a QR code so that you can scan and install the app on an Android device, then enable this option. You must have the development server running to load the app with a QR code. If you have installed an Android emulator or you have a USB tethered Android device with USB debugging enabled, you can check the Install on Device or Emulator option. Beware, it can be tricky to get the Android USB connection working because of the many device drivers for the wide selection of Android devices and numerous Android versions. You also have the option to upload the generated APK to S3 storage. If you select this option, cloud storage properties will be displayed, And you can select an existing named storage connection string or enter your credentials explicitly. I'll choose Show QR Code. Finally, click the Build App button. If all goes well, you'll see a command window open and the Cordova app will be built. All plugins will be added and the APK file will be generated. Here we see the QR code, which can now be scanned to install the app on my Android test device. Next, let's take a look at the files that were generated. Here we see the CLI projects folder that I designated, and I'll open this project folder. This is the folder structure of a Cordova app. If I open the platforms folder, I'll see the Android folder. If you wanted to open this project in Android Studio, this is the folder to select. If you're wondering where the generated APK file is, it's in the build/outputs/APK folder. Well, that completes our overview of the Cordova CLI Builder. For further information, please refer to the documentation within the Alpha Anywhere help system. Thanks.